Hi, my name is David Gardner, and today I'd like to talk about how French has influenced our language, English. The goal of my thesis is to explain to those who struggle at all with English that English is hard because of the French. I'd like to start off with a quote from Writing the Mother Tongue, a book on the history of English spelling by David Woolman. It's reasonable to imagine that the 1.4 billion people who speak, read, and write English today would be speaking, reading, and writing in the Old English dialect of Alfred's West Saxon, or some derivative of it with a less troublesome writing system to boot. But that's not how it happened. The French came. The meaning of this quote will become clearer as I continue with this presentation. Before I continue, I'd like to define a few terms I'll be using throughout this presentation. Orthography is the way in which a language spells its words. Old English is the oldest written form of English. Middle English is English as it was after the French took over. Modern English is what we speak today. Romance words are words that ultimately come from Latin, though may be brought in through other languages such as French. And native words, for the sake of this presentation, are words that come from Old English. Now into some historical background, something I feel is important in understanding just why English changed the way that it has. The year was 1066. Edward the Confessor was the King of England living in London. Harold Hardrada is the next living heir to the throne and is residing in the far north of England. William of Normandy, which is south of England, is promised the English throne, which is then given to Harold Godwinson. William plans an attack. Godwinson's army prepares in the south. Hardrada's army slaughters the people of York. The English travel north to fight off Hardrada, but when they get back, William has landed and defeats the weakened English. Almost immediately after these events, matters of politics, military, and cuisine each saw English words replaced by French ones, either entirely or partially. With the French in rule, our words of royalty, including the word royalty, come from French, where the likes of royal and prince replaced kingly and atheling. For the same reason, so did the words of the military, like how army and enemy replaced fyrd and fiend. For cuisine, we kept our words cow and sheep for the animals, but while the English were slaving away on the farms, the French were dining on beef and mutton. At this time, only the French could afford the education to become scribes, but when it came to writing English, these scribes refused to use the so-called barbaric Old English orthography and essentially winged it. This, however, led to some inconsistent results. To show just how inconsistent Middle English spelling was, I provided this quote from Philip Durkin, Deputy Chief Editor of the Oxford English Dictionary. It is quite typical to find the same word spelled in slightly different ways within a single page of a single manuscript. The Linguistic Atlas of Late Medieval English records around 500 different spellings for through. Keeping in mind that through is one word, I've listed several of the 500 spellings in question, though I quickly ran out of room. I think it's clear from this that French played a major role in complicating spelling. Now if I may, let me ask, what other language has spelling bees? At first it seemed like an odd question, but it's practically unheard of outside the English-speaking realm to have an orthography so complicated that we have entire competitions to see how good someone is at spelling their own language. Here's a list of Old English spelling rules for letters that don't already make the same one sound in modern English. Small, isn't it? A list this small couldn't possibly be made for modern English, since our orthography can vary depending on what language that word is from. But even then, things can still be hard to predict. Take these words, all ending in OUGH but sounding nothing alike. Granted, you may spell plow and hiccup like this, but I see no reason why we can't do similar things with the rest like so. Here I have 3 sentences, one worded normally, one scholarly, and one simply. Here I've marked the words as native and romance. And here I've graphed how common each are. Light blue are native, dark blue are romance. As you can see, in common speech, we normally use more native words than romance. A lot of scholarly jargon is romance, and most words people find easy to understand are native words, likely because of how common they are normally. It is often considered that the fact that we have many words from different languages that mean similar things is one of the many beauties of the English language, but I like to present the idea that there's still plenty beauty to be had without this. Take the famous ring verse by J.R.R. Tolkien.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.
A wonderful poem from a wonderful story, and the only romance word in the whole thing is mortal. But as I said, this is only one section of the story. There exists, however, an entire story written without any French influence by the name Beowulf. Here I have a section from the beginning of this beautiful tale containing poetic elements not often seen, at least not in the same way nowadays, like alliteration. Oft shield shething shethena threatum, bonego maetho. Or creative use of compound words, like calling the sea a whale road. Though this version may not be understandable to most people anymore, many critics agree on the beauty of the story and its writing. One may argue that all this is pointless to talk about, since the French have already taken over, but I say there's still a possibility for change. In the preface to his 1806 dictionary, he explains the need for spelling reform by reflecting on Old and Middle English, and specifically how French and Latin influences disfigured the language with a class of mongrels, splendor, inferior, author, and the like. This quote is in reference to Noah Webster, the very same Webster responsible for the namesake dictionary, which single-handedly influenced an entire country on how to spell their words. In fact, some of these spellings prevail in other English-speaking countries, such as with jail and music. To conclude, I'd like to say that English still is a beautiful language as it is, but had the French never come, we would still have that beauty, only with less difficulty when it comes to using it.